Right, here we are, Thursday evening in Australia, in West Wyalong, which is in the Riverina, which is in New South Wales. And yeah, interesting day, I suppose, in some ways. So, put the paper to bed today. That's always a good thing. And yeah, we do still produce a paper every week, can you believe? Soon to get a website up so we can enter the digital world, at least the 20th century. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I've talked about AI before, but it never fails to amaze me how absolute bollocks half of this sort of AI kind of thing is, even the simple things, right? So, where I am at the moment, I'm not connected to the internet, which may come as a surprise to you because you're talking to me now or looking at me. But no, what I use is the hotspot on the phone. But I have the phone, right? I put it on, I put the hotspot on, it's right there, right in front of the computer. And then this thing churns away up at the top there and masking it to, log in. And well, it can't find it. It can't find it, right? Because it's right below itself. It's right at its feet. It's there right in front of it, and it just can't see it, right? Now, the other thing that I've noticed as well, sorry about that, clapping, it's probably got thunderclap, isn't it, where you are with this high quality microphone. Anyway, one of the things about it is I've talked about Siri before and how stupid I think that is, Now, what I've noticed recently, I'm going to say she, I don't like to say it. I don't like to give the machine any identity really because it's just a machine. But anyway, it's a woman's voice. Maybe I should change it and change it to he or something like that. Anyway, so what she started doing now is I'll go, and the only time I ever use Siri is if I go, Siri, oh, it's going to happen now, isn't it? Hang on a sec. I'll just muffle her. I know you shouldn't do that. It's probably coercive control, and I could get in trouble for it, couldn't I? That's what's going to happen, isn't it? Down the track, right? They'll have a mind of their own, of course, and then they'll have rights. I guess I'm talking about the machines, not women or women's voices. Anyway, so what I do is I go outside. I've said this before, but I'll just repeat it slightly. I go outside. It's dark. I need the light on. I say, Siri, put torch on. And she goes, torch on, right? And you go, okay, that's fine. Then you go, Siri, torch off when you come back. And what I've noticed recently is I've said, Siri, torch off. And then she goes, torch off. And I go, oh, thanks for that. And she goes, uh-huh. What is that about? What is that about? So before she used to go, you're welcome. Now she goes, uh-huh. As if she can't really be bothered, as if I'm bothering her too much, getting the phone light to come on. Yeah, it's really worrying. It really is. And you just don't want to engage with it really, because the more you engage with it, the more you give it some credibility, right? As a speaking person or do you know what I mean? Gives it some identity, I suppose, really, over and above its kind of machine identity. It's really worrying, Anyway, I don't much like it. I don't think it's very good, really. I mean, people talk about AI being a super duper thing and it's going to take over the world. They're all the only people who talk about it like that are the people who are developing it, right? Nobody else talks about it like that, do they? Anyway, there we go. So what did I do today? So I put the paper together today, 16 pages. Doesn't sound much, does it? Not at all. In fact, it's not much, right? Back in the day when advertising revenue from local companies and all that sort of thing was very, very lucrative, you would have had a 28 page paper, a 34 page paper. The way it works with papers, it's in sections of 4, right? Or 8 or 16. And you would have had quite a thick paper, and it would have lots of ads in. Now, 16 pages, right? I'm having to fill out of that 16 because there aren't that many ads. I should have checked, shouldn't I, before I came on here. I'm having to fill roughly at least half of that, 8, 9, 10 pages, probably. Let's say 10 pages. 10 pages. I have no staff, right? So I have to write everything myself, apart from the articles that come in from people. They're mostly sports articles. Now, these are folks who are keen about what they do. A few other people send things in as well. You've got to sub-edit it. Some take a bit of time, others not too bad. Some people actually write pretty well, and you don't have to do too much with it. But I have to write a lot. So I ended up today. Well, I work, I'm working all week. I'll tell you what, I think I've said before, I work 7 days a week, essentially. Saturday, I'm going out to cover rugby union stuff, I hesitated there because it's bloody confusing here. There's so many different sports teams. And then on Sunday, I'm going to be going out and covering a kids rugby league gala event, right? So it's like a pretty much an all-day event. Both of them I've been invited to. You can't really say no. And you know what? I'm not a sports person. I've said it before, but you've got to go to these events. You meet people. You learn about different stories. Things that have nothing to do with sports. So it's actually quite. I don't think I said this before, but last Saturday I thought, right, I'm gonna have a day off, and then I got a phone call from I'll call him a punter, like a person who gives me stories, and she said to me, "Hey, listen, did you know they got jet planes down at the airport today? Airport. It's not really an airport; it's just a shed, but anyway, and some tarmac." And I went down there, covered that story, and yeah, that was good. I enjoy doing it, mixing with people, meeting new people, finding out about it. I guess that's why I like doing the job. But yeah, there are certainly challenges, folks in the office who don't want to see any change. That's a big challenge. Anyway, there you go. So what else can we talk about? So I'm going to be doing those things on the weekend. Tomorrow is Friday. I'm going to try and get about half a day off tomorrow if I can. Kind of take up a bit of that weekend, stuff I've got to do. Anyway, we'll see how we go. And what else? What else is going on? Oh, yeah, my wife, she's back in Hawkesbury there. And she's trying to connect up the printer so she can print something. And it's a bit of a nightmare. Use a bit of AI, I said. Which is a bit mean, isn't it? Tell you what, miss my dogs, right? Miss my dogs. So I've got two dogs. One's called Oscar and one's called Leo. Leo is a Shih Tzu Jack Russell cross. And after I'd got him and was taking him home, somebody said to me, yeah, that's called a Jack Shit. Unpleasant, isn't it, really? The other one is a Foxy, which is kind of an Australian breed. Well, it is an Australian breed. And literally, you know what they do in Australia? They call everything as it is. 7 Mile Beach. It's because it's 7 miles. Snowy Mountains. It's because they're snowy, right? Usually it's like that. It's very straightforward. And the Foxy is a fox terrier, basically. But he's a curious sort of Australian type dog, a bit like a Jack Russell, I suppose. A bit taller, longer legs, all that sort of stuff. I love both my dogs, I really do. Anyway, I miss them, because they're not here, and I keep agonizing about it and wondering whether I should bring them back with me, when I go home again and next time I come back here. But there's always all sorts of complications about that. Anyway, interesting thing is, so I know this guy. I don't think I've mentioned this before. Maybe I have, but anyway, it's worth repeating. So I know this guy, and he's in the RAF, Royal Australian Air Force. That's not really relevant, really. But anyway, him and his wife breed dogs, husky dogs, right? And take them to shows and all that. And my eldest son, he learned to play trumpet. And every year, because of that, he played the last post, right, at Anzac Day, which is a bit like Remembrance Day, right? It's the same sort of thing. And so this guy and his wife with the Huskies, they had a big dog show on every Anzac Day, right? Somewhere miles away, a long way away. Anyway, he asked if my son could go and do it. So we always used to go along there, went there for several years. Anyway, I always thought he was a bit of a weird bloke. But anyway, we were talking about dogs. At the time, we had this dog Cricket, this Pomeranian sort of light cross, I suppose. He was pretty much Pomeranian. And we inherited him off a friend of the wife's who sadly got cancer and passed away. I think I've mentioned this before, so I'm not going to go on about it. But anyway, we went to the Anzac Day thing once, and we took the dog Cricket, his name was. Loads of dogs around. He loved it, meeting all these other dogs and all this stuff. And I was talking to the guy in the tent. There was about 20 or 30 people in there. And I said, it's great having a dog, isn't it? It really is. And he said, you know what? He said, if you put your dog and your wife in the boot of the car, closed it, and drove around for a couple of hours, right? When you come back and open that boot, only one of them is going to be pleased to see you. You don't win any prizes for figuring out which one it was, right? But it wasn't the wife. Let me just tell you in case you're a bit slow. But Yeah, there you go. Pretty weird. Anyway, it's good to have a dog. Look, I'm rambling on a bit here. I'm not going to spend too much time talking now because I don't have anything else much to say. I do actually. Tomatoes, tin tomatoes. Let me tell you about this, right? So here in Australia, they've got a company called SPC Ardmona, right? And they tin a lot of stuff, like sweet corn, tin tomatoes, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, a few years ago, they were in trouble. They were losing sales. Nobody was buying the tin tomatoes. I'll tell you why in a minute. And so there was a big thing about it, because it employs a fair number of people, particularly in Victoria, which is the next state over from New South Wales. And they launched, I suppose, a bit of a campaign saying that, people would lose their jobs, hundreds of people, I think, if they didn't sell more of these tin tomatoes. So Woolworths and Coles, who are the two main supermarkets here, said, look, we will make sure we're stocking them, right? And lots of people started buying them. They're grown in Australia, they're made in Australia. Anyway, all very well, right? And I like to buy things that are made in the country I live in. So when I was living in Britain, I wanted to buy British things, British cars, whatever, right? Anything made in Britain. Because, why is that? Because it means that the person who makes that product has a job in that country in which you live in. It means they pay taxes. So that goes to help with social welfare and all sorts of other things like that. And also it keeps them in a job, right? They've got a job. They've got a bit of pride in themselves, I suppose. So it's important. When I came to Australia, similar thing. I try and buy everything here that's made here as much as I can. And anyway, so that's fine. But the thing is this. So they've got quite a few Italian tomatoes, tin tomatoes. Now, if you bear in mind, they have to come by ship, right? And you talk about food miles. Well, you can't find anywhere further than Australia from Europe. Well, apart from New Zealand, which is another few hours away, I suppose. But it's ridiculous, isn't it? Putting tin tomatoes and all these other foodstuffs on a ship and sending it out here when we've got perfectly good tomatoes. But have we? That's the question. So one of these it makes of tomatoes from Italy, Muti, right? One of the points I make on the tin is that we don't have any green bits in. You might think that's what a weird thing to say. What a weird thing is that to say? Tomatoes are red. Reason I say it, though, is because your APC Ardmona tomatoes, a fair bit of it is green tomatoes. They're tomatoes that haven't ripened properly, and they put them in the tin anyway. Or they're the ends of tomatoes, which are pretty useless to you, right? And they put them in the tin. So it's a real tussle, right? So that's why people buy Italian tomatoes. They don't have that green stuff that's just pure tomato. It looks good, it tastes good, etc., etc. So if you're going to keep a market, if you're going to try and keep the business, you've got to do proper tomatoes. They've got to be ripe. Don't put green bits in. It's not going to help you. I can see a time when they're going to be struggling again, right? Because people are not bothering to buy them. That's the problem. Anyway, there you go, tomatoes. Who would think we'd have been talking about that? Okay, that's about it. I don't want to string it out anymore this evening because I don't have much more to say. I'm going to get an early night. I've got to go to a gold company presentation tomorrow. So where I work, the area I work in, there's a big gold mine called Evolution Mines. It's not called that. It's called Cowell Evolution Mine. It's actually near a lake, right? Sometimes that lake is dry in the summer, but hasn't been dry for years because there's been a fair bit of rain over most of the southeast of the country, I suppose. I shouldn't even say country, should I? It's a continent. I'll tell you a bit more about Australia one day. But yeah, because a lot of people don't know about it. I had no idea about it before I came here. Wasn't interested, to be honest with you. So we'll talk about that actually one day, and I'll fill you in on it. But look, basically, people don't ride kangaroos. We don't do that. Do not ride kangaroos. Some Americans think this. My son, some American guy said to him, "So, God, do you ride those kangaroos?" Of course, we don't ride them. How ludicrous is that? I suppose you could. Anyway, so yeah, we'll kind of talk a bit more about that in time as well. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I've got to get an early night. I've got a busy day tomorrow. Oh yes, I'm going to this gold company's presentation. They're giving around about $90,000 to couple of charities. They do this regularly. You know, they really put a lot into the community to essentially keep the community happy with what they're doing. And their mine, as I was going to say, is on the edge of Lake Carroll. There's been a bit of talk about issues with that, you know, and whether stuff's leaching into the waters. I don't honestly think it is myself, but anyway, it's something to keep an eye on as a journalist, I suppose. But anyway, I'm going to their presentation tomorrow, and yeah, get up early and off I go to that, and then an action-packed weekend. Anyway, I'll talk to you again soon. Take care, whether it's evening, afternoon, morning, middle of the night, I don't know, wherever you are in the world. But look, tune in. We'll have a more interesting chat another day. Okay, thanks very much. And yep, we'll talk again soon. Take care.